4 years after the Condon study recommendations had begun the demise of the respectability of ufology, a small town of Piedmont, Missouri became the focal point of research when a UFO flap began in the area. From February of that year, the local police, the Piedmont police, would receive about 500 UFO reports from the region in the Ozark Mountains. The most well-known case is one of a basketball coach named Reggie Bone, who, while travelling home from a game with players and team managers, reportedly witnessed the following. A bright shaft of light beaming out of the sky. It looked like it was about 200 yards off the road, hovering over an open field. It was impossible to determine the size or shape because of the darkness. Anyway, we saw four lights that looked like portholes: red, green, amber and white. We figured they were about 3 or 4 feet apart, all in a row. In the nearby city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Professor and Chair of the University of Missouri's Physics Department, Dr. Harley D. Rutledge, began hearing the stories. Not only from the national news media, but from the students at the university. It seemed as if the majority of people in Piedmont had seen something, mostly unexplained lights. Two students told Rutledge one day that they'd actually seen a flying saucer in the region. Skeptical yet curious, Rutledge and a colleague from the university drove up to Piedmont and decided to look at the phenomena themselves. And that first night they witnessed some orange balls of light for themselves. This was enough for Rutledge to seek to undertake a full scientific study, and using his university's equipment, resources and volunteers, they set about to achieve the following, and these were to measure the physical properties of lights or objects in the sky and to identify their origin. So the initial 2-week field study at Piedmont was extended to a wider region when the team returned to Cape Girardeau and found that that city itself was experiencing a UFO flap of its own. And during the field study, multiple teams would communicate by CB radio, and they were able to observe the same light phenomena from different vantage points at the same time. And they used cameras with diffraction gratings to analyze light spectra, radio receivers to identify electromagnetic effects, and also radar equipment. And the 8-year study saw over 400 hours of observations being made, where they recorded, I think it's 45 UFOs, and had 178 candidate UFOs that they were able to eliminate as being known objects. So the description of the phenomena from the study describes the process of the manifestation and the typology. So what they saw was orange balls of light that would switch on, last for a few seconds, and switch off. And an orange ball of light would then switch on at a different location, stay for a period of time, and then switch off again. This would happen multiple times, and with the object eventually returning to its original location in some cases. And Rutledge also recorded another phenomena that he termed the random flashbulb effect. And this was a series of outwardly random xenon-like lights that would flash on and disappear. Xenon has a characteristic lavender coloured glow. And this effect would last for a few seconds, after which an off-white light would appear amongst the flashing and then move away from the flashing region. Objects seen by naked eye or observed by telescope to be a single light source would inexplicably reveal several points of light in photographs. While camera shake was inevitable, it could not account for the patterns observed. Test shots using known light sources, such as the moon and electrical lighting, showed different patterns of light paths in these long exposure photographs. Multiple light trails, as you see in this photograph, for a singly identified object could not be explained by the team. Pseudostars. Observation of the night sky would reveal what the team called pseudostars, stationary lights camouflaged by known constellation stars that would suddenly, inexplicably move, sometimes appearing to react to the actions of the observer. Some light objects were seen to mimic the appearance of known objects. While in the Piedmont area, they witnessed triangular formations of red lights that appeared to make sounds like engine noise. And initially, the team didn't even record these UFO sightings. It was only later they realized that these were not aeroplanes. The team had previously witnessed a military jet appearing to intercept a light object while they were on a sky watch in the city of Cape Girardeau. And after spotting a UFO one evening while on his doorstep in Cape Girardeau, Rutledge observed what appeared to be a jet approaching a UFO. Yet through binoculars, he reported that the aircraft that was approaching the UFO was not recognizable as an aircraft. The edge of the straight wings had a serrated effect on it, and it led Rutledge to believe that this was not an aircraft, but was actually a form of UFO, a strange form of UFO. They would report pseudo-satellites, which were light objects that would just be seemingly indistinguishable from satellites. So while watching a satellite pass overhead, one would suddenly make a right-angle turn seemingly in violation of what we know as the laws of physics. So the investigation results, the peak time for UFO sightings was found to be 8:30 p.m. However, Rutledge discovered that the variability of peak time was simply due to the change of sunset throughout the year. The peak was in fact dusk. Numerous shapes of UFOs were recorded, including triangles with red lights, bullet-shaped metallic objects, and semi-convex discs. Yet the team had noticed some unusual observer effects with some strange coincidences that appeared to be connected to the light object behavior. The team had noticed that when observing a light object, a change of speed or direction would sometimes seemingly coincide with a decision or an action taken by an observer. For example, after watching an object for a while, an observer would raise a camera to take a photograph and the light or object would shoot off or blink out. They also noticed that these changes in behaviour would coincide with changes to other instrumentation such as the radio equipment. And Rutledge also realised that the coincidence of his own UFO sightings, particularly his own personal daylight sightings of objects that were short in duration, was such that it indicated to him the possibility that these were being presented to him as staged events. The objects appeared to want to be seen. The apparent coincidence of object-like behaviour being associated with observer acts or intentions amounted to about 80 recorded events in his study, and Rutledge considered the possibility that meaningful coincidences were part of an intelligence-driven experience. In Rutledge's words, possibly a great deal of UFO activity is subliminal, which, if true, could have serious ramifications. It's interesting to note that astronomer and Project Blueprint scientist, the consultant Dr. General Hynek, visited Piedmont, Missouri towards the end of March of 1973. Hynek was, however, unimpressed with the actual UFO reports coming out of Piedmont at the time, stating flatly that he'd found only very uninteresting stuff and a great number of highly excited people. So over a decade later, in another region of high UFO activity, this time in Norway's sparsely populated Hessdalen Valley, Dr. Hynek would find a convergence of a high intensity of sightings over a tiny population that he would find much more interesting. The Hessdalen Valley has become famous for its unusual yet frequent manifestations of balls of light and UFOs, including cigar-shaped and bullet-shaped metallic objects. This phenomenon first began reported in Hessdalen back in the 1940s during the post-war ghost rocket era. However, a significant increase in reports of UFOs occurred in the early 1980s, and at its peak of activity in 1984, sightings of the orange ball of light phenomena were being reported between 14 and 20 times a week. Journalist and photographer Arndt Wist visited Hessdalen in February of 1982. To cover the UFO sightings in the region, and he had apparently been sceptical and was expecting to write a debunking piece until he saw the phenomena for himself. A star came towards us near the top of Rohovden Mountain with a tremendous speed. The star was no longer a star, but an intense growing light source. Above the mountain top it suddenly stopped, then it sunk down along the top. I fetched my camera with a 600mm telescopic lens to take a picture. The sight in the viewfinder was impressive. It was great. It was oval. It came just moving. Then it stopped short again. I had a strange feeling. It had caught sight of us. I pushed the releaser and suddenly the object was gone. It was like somebody pulling down a curtain. Studies into the Hessdalen lights were instigated by two Swedish and Norwegian UFO groups in beginning in June 1983. With the Project Hessdalen research supported by the University of Oslo, the University of Bergen, and also the Norwegian Defence Establishment through the loan of equipment. And the team installed equipment used to capture data about the phenomenon in common with Rutledge's study in Missouri. And they installed low-frequency radio receivers, cameras, and radar equipment, and in the first month, 53 observations of UFOs were made. In the words of J.L. and Hynek, Hessdalen is really a UFO laboratory. It's a place where things are happening and things can be studied. Hessdalen had afforded a unique opportunity to study what were usually rare phenomena, and during the 1990s, Italian scientists who had actually been working on SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, came across the previously published published Project Hessdalen studies and travelled to Hessdalen themselves to study the phenomena for themselves. They set up an automatic measurement station to gather radar data and electromagnetic data that would be sent back to Bologna for later analysis. And this allowed unmanned monitoring and also complemented manned field studies where visual observations of photography could occur simultaneously. It was run by the Radio Astronomy Centre in Bologna, Italy, and the study was called the EMBLA Project. The name was a reference to the ensemble-based data assimilation, which is a methodology used in the forecasting of atmospheric and earth phenomena and oceanic phenomena as it's suited to the investigation of transient phenomena. The scientific study today studied the more common light ball phenomena as shown in the photograph. And the coloured lines beneath the light sources here are actually from the diffraction grating, and they're used to determine what the frequency of light that makes up the observed light. And in the published studies, they report that the objects appear as physical matter, not illusory or simple light phenomena. Objects have been observed to range in size from a few inches to 30 feet in diameter and have been measured travelling at speeds of up to 30,000 kilometres per hour. Coloured balls of light, including red, green and blue, often show up as white from 3 distinct colour bands. Blue and red orbs have been observed to exist together in close proximity, and they've been able to form new orbs close by. And this is considered strange by scientists because the energy requirement for what they consider these to be plasmas, the energy requirement for blue plasma is very different to that of red plasma. So if these were these would not be expected to exist if these were normal plasmas. In fact, these plots show the light intensity distribution in the case of a typical plasma on the left and a typical Hessdalen phenomenon on the right. So the vertical axis is the intensity of the light, and the damage. This is actually the area, the plane of the photograph. It indicates that this is more like a solid object than a light phenomenon. Hessdalen phenomena has also been observed to precipitate metal fragments. Pieces of metal have been collected that the scientists believe are dropped by the balls of light. This is an image of a metal particle. There it is. This is an image of a metal particle that is believed to be produced by the phenomena. And scientists say this is yet to be confirmed. And this, in this case, a spherical particle, in this case, is about 15 microns across. So in addition to the basic ball of light phenomena, scientists have discovered that objects can appear as luminous objects with different basic symmetrical shapes. So we have bilateral symmetry at the top and rectilinear shapes at the bottom. So they're not just spherical; they're not just spheres. In the year 2000, the EMBLA Project, had multiple teams of observers at various viewing locations where they recorded a diversity of phenomena, including pulsating lights, sometimes with colour changement, point light flashes, diffuse flashes in the sky, and 3 co-moving red lights in the sky that they termed the triangle. A town meeting was set up where, without being told what the results of what the scientists had discovered, the local people were asked to relay their own experiences, and with this, while scientists simply listened. In the preliminary report of the phenomena, the lead scientist made the following observation. It must be recognised that the extraordinary match between the sightings by the EMBLA team and the ones reported over and over again by the Hessdalen inhabitants plays in favour of the existence of the visual phenomena in a bimodal form, which has been reported since at least 20 years. Without any sort of doubt, unstructured and plasma-like lights often coexist with structured objects for a reason that is not possible to explain. So these studies show that the phenomenon is most common just after midnight, with a minor peak at 7:30 p.m. And the radar analysis showed that the objects could be continually recorded on radar for hours, periods of hours where they were only visible by naked eye for a few minutes, 30 minutes in this case. The Hessdalen phenomena has also been shown to radiate strongly in the ultraviolet, which is in common with UFO reports, where you have witnesses to UFO sightings who've suffered from conjunctivitis as a result of UV exposure. So the Hessdalen phenomenon is real. It's real. So what causes it? There are various scientific explanations put forward, and some think it might be a combustion process where clouds of dust from the valley floor containing scandium combust in the air. Another idea is that the macroscopic, what they call Coulomb crystals, formed in plasma, created by radioactive radon gas ionizing in the air. It's a massive scale or something that they actually know exist in a very small scale. Also, piezo electricity produced plasmas have been suggested where they are generated by certain crystalline rocks under certain stresses, specifically from crystals like quartz, commonly known as earthlights. It's also been suggested by the scientists that involved in Project Hessdalen that the phenomena itself might be a result from the spontaneous release of natural zero-point energy, quantum fluctuations of vacuum state. In the words of Project Hessdalen members Massimo Teodorani and Erling Strand, we are facing a source of energy of tremendous power which, if definitively understood, could be reproduced in the laboratory and subsequently bridled for our technological necessities. If ever you needed a reason for a cover-up, there you have it. Now, these aforementioned explanations for Hessdalen phenomena do have one thing in common. These are all natural causes. Now, one reason for this is that science adheres to something called the rule of methodological naturalism, which stipulates that only natural processes can be invoked in scientific statements. So is this a purely natural process? Is there any evidence of an intelligent process at work? Indeed, to date, it appears that no published scientific work has reported any indication of intelligence being behind the phenomena. However, given the philosophical framework that science uses, we would suspect that any discussion to that end would be out in the periphery of the subject rather than being dealt with in the published scientific papers. This photograph shows the original Hessdalen researcher Erling Strand and Leif Havik with Dr. Jelen Heineck during his visit there about nearly 30 years ago. Both Strand and Havik claim to have witnessed light phenomena interacting with witnesses. Erling Strand, now an assistant professor at Østfold University College, is today the leader of the Hessdalen Project and called it 14 times. Several of the original Project Hessdalen people, including Erling Strand, had quietly admitted that in about 10% of their observations they felt the lights interacted with them. If such reports have any credence, then some UAPs, the term the MOD uses for UFOs, may possess rudimentary intelligence, often displayed as playful, animal-like curiosity. In his book, Earthlight Revelations, Paul Devereux tells us that Strand told him that he would eventually avoid taking his camera with him during his trips into the field. He'd realised that he was more likely to see this light phenomena if he left his camera at home. There was some kind of consciousness effect going on. And Strand, like what Halley did Rutledge before him, Strand had come to recognise the subtle effects that this phenomena seemed to possess. The scientists involved in this research acknowledge that there's a lot that is unexplained with the Hessdalen phenomenon, not least what causes it. Outside of research, they do make connections with the UFO report studies. So with these partially understood phenomena such as these, are these phenomena proto-UFOs? Are they the vehicles, or rather agents, using my words more widely, for the manifestation of a deeper UFO experience? Beyond being simply a physical phenomenon, the UFO phenomenon has been shown to interact with witnesses at a profound level. And we've seen with Project Identification, the Missouri study, and Project Hessdalen. We've seen this with the Missouri study and Project Hessdalen. So Paul Devereux, taking this concept further, suggests that not only can the UFO phenomena affect the consciousness of the observer, but the individual experiencer may directly influence the phenomena itself through their own consciousness, resulting in notable changes that the forms take, that some of the UFO forms take. So consciousness is clearly an important aspect of research, and it would be futile to attempt to comprehend the phenomena without giving the nature and possibilities of consciousness, at the very least, a cursory investigation. And that will be after the break.